their solar paneling project, according to what I've been able to find, is 2008 was the 4th year, but yet they put in an additional $20,000 as a 5th year, which is twice as much as what has been used in the past. It's usually been $10,000 for 4 years, and all of a sudden, I don't know why this is in here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of where my question went. Like, we don't have people here to explain some of these things. I was going through, and there's some things that I, had heard.
If there's things we want to flag, as there's a question we want input from that department head, we can make sure they comment on the 24th.
Yeah, and that's in the memo then
Is that what we want to flag?
Yeah.
And then we were gonna make the recommendation that the unallocated park and pool projects for $50,000. Last year, or in 2008, it was $5,000.
That was for a reason, and I believe the reason didn't it go towards engineering costs for the Lake Leota study, or it went towards something else, the creek walls, something.
It was reduced because they were increasing the amount of parkland fees to be spent in the West Side Park by $50,000 or something. Instead of doing just the parking lot they had at the playground, even though it was a different funding source, but politically, Park Board wanted to offset that, so they reduced the unallocated elsewhere.
Sure.
Which made ease on the levy throughout the city, so now adding it back in is a $45,000 tax increase.
Right. Because I remember this vaguely being a question, but there seemed to be like, well, we think we have that parkland fee money. Did that actually come out of those fees, or? Okay, so that was straight, we had that money in there, and, all right. I mean, traditionally, I think.
Traditionally, it was $50,000 a year.
Right, but it's funny because we have this $50,000 unallocated, but we have various other expenses towards the parks. I mean, there's 200 towards West Side Park, I believe, later. But we don't put that under parks here.
And actually, in a recommendation, whole West Side Park and the lake dredging all up in the park section in order to have them grouped together.
Right.
I don't
represent it where they should be.
Exactly.
So that's one thing that we've talked about, and I didn't update any of this yet with all the discussion that Dan and I had on it. But the one that will go to council will have all those updates on it and recommendations that we come up with.
Because I know sometimes there's certain department heads that may get a little bit
Defensive.
I don't know if I was going to use that term. Curious, maybe, that certain things are line item under one area, and then other things are under their department, which looks like.
Well, I talked to that department head today, and he said that would be fine to move that up to park.
I know. I had a funny feeling you had no problem with that.
Yes, he had no problem with that. So. We were going to recommend the lower diamond fence. That should actually be part of the $50,000 unallocated park and pool projects. It's a one-time thing. So we were going to recommend that be rolled into there, so then that would lower it. The creek walls, what we would recommend for that is they've got $50,000 a year for 5 years. Possibly rolling that into a bond and just do it all at once and get it done instead of $50,000 a year, trying to come up with the money somehow.
That's fine if we could finance it that way,
right.
But can we logistically do it that way is another question.
What was the logistic question?
And whether or not, practically speaking, we can do that all in one summer? Or is it something that we have to do by piecemeal?
A year ago, we had an estimate from that group out of Kentucky for like 320,000, 330,000 to do it complete. I think it was like a 2-month project. So logistically, it could be done in one season. Logistically, if it's summer work, it should not be in the way of any sort of lake project going on, but it would be a consideration with not getting people in each other's way. Financially, if $50,000 a year is doing a piecemeal part, it's not that different than $50,000 a year to paying off a bond. It's probably cheaper to do it.
I mean, personally, I consider that particular project more of a safety issue than a recreational issue, but, you know, on the other hand, there's quite a few projects in this capital plan for 2009, so we have to really consider what we do.
This basically, the plan is what came out of the departments as their request, so nothing's been revised or edited.
Sorry, continue.
That's okay. Tip number 5, there is nothing for 2009. Tip number 6, there's an item on there, it's called landscaping. I think that's just supposed to be 0. I think whatever that landscaping project was in tip 6 is probably already completed.
Better make sure on that. I do remember
I mean,
something being said about a project that was needed, and I don't know that it has been completed. We better double check on that with Sauer. So I remember him talking about one this spring.
Like what?
Something additional. It had to do with
We need to do work on the lift station in that
I
vicinity.
think that there was some grading
Which is
and
listed, which happens to be listed. Here's, okay, if
I think there was something to do
on
with
the
grading
county,
and
on
then,
the county road M project, there is still work to be completed this summer, but that should not be carrying forward to next year.
okay. Well, let's double check on that, because I do remember something being said, and I wasn't sure that we were getting it done, and that was, with the whole biodiesel thing occurring, I think some things that we thought we were doing after the fact.
You can give them a call, I recommend zeroing it out with no hesitation. Okay.
I have no problem with that either, I just want to make sure we're not.
Because it would be a carry forward because it is on the 2008 capital plan.
Okay.
That same dollar amount for landscaping. And there was nothing, in 2008, there was nothing over there for 2009. So it would be a carry forward if the work hasn't been done. The roundabout / bypass lane, that one, we thought would probably be, that one would be done by borrowing.
I'm sorry?
The roundabout bypass lane, the
Right.
funding for that, the $350,000, if that happens this year, that would be done through borrowing.
Correct. Now, oh God, I got a question on every single one of these things, I think.
Well, that's
It's
okay.
important stuff.
Yeah, that roundabout, and then you say / bypass lane, the cost wasn't the same if it was a bypass lane. I know for a fact that Sauer had put in a request. I'm assuming that we haven't heard anything back from DOT in regards to what we're doing there. And I know that we had said at Public Works, and the 3 options were, either the roundabout potentially, but at this particular time, that makes 0 sense since there's no south outlet. And the bypass lane was something we would only consider, assuming that it didn't disrupt, I guess, the traffic into the business area there north on Linneman. So the third option obviously was do nothing, even though it pains us to say that, but we're stuck between kind of a rock and a hard place with the developer south of 14 and with the DOT.
Mhm.
So do we still allocate that money there when it seems like realistically, we're not gonna get an answer? I mean, if we were to sit up here and realistically speculate as to what was to happen on a DOT, we're probably not gonna get the answer we want on the bypass lane in regards to allowing that, the left-handed turns out of Lindeman onto 14. We're probably not getting that answer. And again, we're not going to have any need for a roundabout because there's not gonna be any developments south of 14. So, do we scrap it? Or do we keep it in there, put that onto the, onto the total of these capital plan projects because, I don't know, maybe we push it to 2010.
We put a bypass lane on the south side of
What's that, it costs $350,000 anyway.
14, we have to buy some of the land off the building.
It's possible.
We went through it before.
And they've indicated they'd be willing to.
Well, they told us they wouldn't give it to us, do you remember that? They didn't want to give us the land for the bypass or sell it to us.
I just don't realistically see that project being done to something that makes us happy and also is safe until those developers,
Come forward.
decide that they're gonna actually develop that land. So, and I don't see them coming to, with that in 2009. I think we should probably just push that number to 2010. And make some of the other projects a little more palatable. And these are big things that we can push out. Does anyone disagree with that?
No, I agree totally.
Just
So
so
what
that
is
you
it,
know.
300 or 378?
It's 378. Well, that's what the bid that she,
300 the request that she put forward.
Okay.
well,
A couple of
Okay.
questions. Obviously, since I'm not, I don't know, did they come to public safety with this thing?
It was brought up, yes, because, again, it was for capital and it was for down the road. She just said that with the bids, we got the bids, it was higher than what she anticipated, but they wanna
Okay.
have that, and I don't know what it's called, but it's where they can rinse off their clothing,
Decontamination.
yeah.
yes. As opposed to taking all that home and tracking it through. So the price is up there because of that, and I think,
It includes
I can't-
the whole building, everything that would need to be in the
Yeah.
building and the structure and the cement work.
it's all included.
Mhm.
Right.
Did you see a copy of the bid from Roger Berg or?
No, I hadn't. But regardless of that, is it something that, now I know that our EMS director is talking about this for some time. Unfortunately, times are tight, as we discussed, and what I'm wondering is, are the facilities we have now so lacking that we are not in compliance with any regulation, administrative law or statute and or otherwise?
Specific answer I cannot give. I would be rather confident that we're in compliance.
I would imagine that there would be some sort of regulatory agency that would come out.
If you pull out a book, you'll find some.
Right.
We just remodeled down there, did the bathroom and the shower and
Across the street, right?
here, downstairs here. We just remodeled the whole downstairs for them a year ago and put in new bathrooms and showers and everything else, so they could do that when they come back from the ambulances.
Mhm.
2 ambulances fit in there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess, what is the case? In other words, why do we need a new garage if we have a place for, that the ambulance go into, which I would call it a garage.
Because the police are getting one.
Are they? Let's see. Let's see.
We would've gotten that.
I think that would be a question you can talk to
You're jumping
Mary
ahead.
on the 24th.
Well, I'm just saying, that's the thinking all the time.
I mean, we're already dealing with our 50+% on the fire station. The police are moving. I mean, it's a de facto move. I know that they want remodeling.
Well, it's pretty close in the ambulance garage.
We're not saying that,
Maybe
we know
close.
this, but it's just the idea to think it's.
Close, but is it something we can hold off on?
Yes.
That answers my question.
Push it to 2010, 11, 12?
Put it in 2011.
11,
And
okay.
We'll see where we go from there.
You can cut the number in half. Realistically, that's
Yeah,
a big garage.
that's a,
Yeah, I don't know what the size of it
I don't get the price either, but I certainly didn't see the bid, so.
I have a copy right here.
That's okay.
Oh, boy. Well, we should look at it for 2011.
Let's move into public
Yeah.
works.
I'll keep it for another year. All right, Public Works. The brush chipper was in the 2008 budget, and that was not purchased, so that's gonna roll forward. It was levied in 2008, so we'll have existing funds in 2009 to pay for the brush chipper. And then the park mower is to be funded through levy, which is the third item down.
Mhm.
The equipment replacement, I think that's something, I think that's just in there every year, just for normal maintenance probably of equipment or replacement of the unknown, what could happen, and I think that's what that's for.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident we probably spent
More than that,
on, this year with,
yeah, I think it was
Plows and
closer to
everything.
$50,000 for repairing the
Right.
haul trucks. The missing sidewalk connection.
because of the
That would be
development.
the case. The motion coming out of Public Works last week was 1.75 million, which was the best estimate we had at the time. Subsequent to that, revised construction estimates would put it right around even 2 million.
Right.
Presumably, that's what would be voted on for the referendum at council next week. And the agenda will sort of note that, make the.
I'll amend that
Um,
at the time.
But the budget number that's in the capital budget right now is 2.5.
I think we should
Doesn't
keep
mean
this
that-
as realistic as we should. I don't know why we would have two different numbers.
Right.
I think that's just another potential cause for confusion.
Well, it already is.
Yeah, let's just,
I'm on Phil's email list, so I know they're already, well, where'd 1.75 come from? I thought it was 2.5. 1.75 is the actual,
yeah.
2 weeks ago was the actual cost estimate.
Right, well, let's change that to 2.
And the West Side Park is gonna be moved up into the park area, and, I had emailed Janice today to get back to me on how that was to be funded, and I didn't get a response. So I'm not sure how that's expected to be funded. That's something I guess that they'll have to present on the 24th.
Right, do we have any of those parkland fees coming in?
We have,
There's one.
including a couple that are,
We have a couple delinquent,
Delinquent?
yeah,
even those added to the balance is not 200,000.
I understand that, but we can,
And I would assume that by next spring, we got those delinquents collected. We've been a bit relaxed this year because
Because we don't bill them.
construction's
Right.
slow, so why hit them up if they don't have the money? But we can't let that drag on forever. It is money owed to the city, and it's meant on the development, not on their selling lots. So somewhere we're gonna run out of patience.
Well, I think we probably involved somewhere in the funding answer for that would be, knowing what we currently have on hand from parkland fees, what we have owing, and, figure out what percentage of the actual and the potential we would want to use towards that.
That'll be good for 2009, but then they have $200,000 out for the next 5 years.
We'll figure that out next year.
Okay.
The year after, the year after.
Alright.
It's not current, but gives us some ballpark to work from. If midwinter, the police are able to remodel and move into the current fire station, we've got a building available. Last spring, so over a year ago, there were, I think, 3 or 4 individuals or businesses that had asked us, oh, I hear you're putting the building up for sale, a year and a half ago, so don't know what their interest is now, but we got those names. There also is currently a recent interest in, hey, we heard the building's gonna be coming up for sale, you guys know what your price is, do you know when you're selling it, etc. So if none of the ones previously are interested, I know that there's one that may be interested now, and we haven't tried advertising it or putting it up for sale or anything, it's just word of mouth. But we're gonna have a building, we don't really wanna heat or maintain it after it's empty. If we're expecting proceeds to pay for some of the stuff in the budget, we do need to start figuring out what is our game plan for selling it.
Do we have to have another appraisal?
It's not necessary,
Because aren't they good for at least a year?
typically 6 months.
Oh, okay.
But here and there, if you can get somebody to buy it directly through our attorney rather than pay 6% for real estate, it'd be a savings to the city too.
Let's sell it.
We'll be putting out revisions to that draft probably by the end of next week. So if there's comments or questions on it, or make sure this company's on the mailing list, we got a week and a half to get that stuff to me. 2 things that have been pointed out to me, or suggestions for amending into the thing are, you had mentioned previously something with experience with tax increment financing and economic development would be a real plus. The other question that came up was something in terms of what is their experience with smaller municipalities. Like, here's all our experience in Madison. The culture's a little bit different here. What experience do they have with a New Glarus or an Edgerton or someplace more of our peer? But if there's other comments to it, get them to me so we can get this advertised in the next couple of weeks. And
I didn't see any of them in the municipality.
okay. Yeah, and or if there's places that we want to make sure that we advertise it, let me think of those too.
I did look. Motion to recommend the common council.
The first item references annexation expenses. A couple months ago, when we first met with Landmark, or Randy Kyle came into the council meeting and talked about them wanting to make sure that they kept the city whole with the obligations on the biodiesel project, I had identified this $36,000 reimbursement for annexation, for the taxes. In reviewing the two contracts related to that, it specifically says that it specifically says that it is to be repaid by tax increment, not directly passed on to Landmark or somebody else. So consistent with those contracts, I'd recommend that we do not proceed with trying to collect that from Landmark. But recognize that if crush comes forward or something else happens, it's still on our receivables list and it does start generating increment. Infrastructure on County Road M, that's already in place. Here's the assessment stuff that was approved back in February of 2007. So the terms are already decided on the bulk of keeping this in balance. There is electric improvements that were done to the property. We have reclaimed some of the equipment in order to use it elsewhere, not just have stuff sitting out in the rain, which reduces the amount that we need to be repaid. I am recommending that it gets paid off over 5 years. I have not had a response to these proposals from Landmark, so I wouldn't be surprised if they want to lengthen that to 10 and sort of keep things simple and match the assessment, but I'm proposing it at 5. The other two are an interest cost that we incurred on that $1.9 million loan that we're paying interest on without it being used for a time. That's $17,000 plus $44,000 in attorney and engineering costs directly attributable to the biodiesel project. Recommend that we require those to be paid in full within 30 days. And I think Landmark will agree to those, but like I said, I did not get a response on this memo from them yet. So they may counter something by Tuesday, but I think this is fair to them, it's fair to the city, and it keeps good terms, friendly terms, so that when crush hopefully proceeds next year, we're not bearing grudges over any of these issues.